Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, a space for spiritual entrepreneurs who refuse to settle for anything less than their purpose. I am your host, Lauren Perlingi. After surviving a near-death experience and being declared gone for 3 minutes, I woke up with a mission to help women turn self-sabotage into self-compassion and fear into fuel. Here, we're going to dive into raw conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories designed to help you break free from old patterns, claim your voice, and build a business that lights up your soul. If you've ever felt like you don't fit the mold, you're in the right place. This is where Misfits rise into their power. Welcome back to another episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the space where we remember who we are beneath the conditioning, reconnect with our truth, and rise into the lives that we are meant to lead. Today, I'm welcoming a guest whose presence carries depth, compassion, and lived wisdom. Anna is also known as the love messenger. She has spent her life guiding and supporting others who feel called to become more of who they truly are. She understands the transition and the transitional journey and transformation journey, I should say, of remembering who we are spiritually, just spiritual beings having a human experience. And I feel like I need to say that because it's very, very important. Some of us, most of us, some of us, whoever, we sometimes forget that in our humanness, right? So as we walk this path with courage and curiosity and devotion, Anna, I am so happy and I'm to hear about your journey, and I'm so happy for you to be here with us. The path that led you to here and now, this moment, the work that you feel called to do, and the heart behind the message. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. It's my honor. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yes. So kind of start, you don't have to start from the beginning, but kind of start from where you are now, or where, your journey kind of started. You always use Cliff Notes version of, who you are. Tell the listeners who you are and kind of where you are right now.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, there could be a whole book here. So we'll go. Yeah, I like the Cliff Notes version. Essentially, my journey has been about coming into awareness in this realm, as you spoke into, that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I say I came out of the womb to help and support people. Like, that has been my journey. And I also, as I'm 56 now, I also recognize there have been many iterations of who I am. My business is the Lotus Path. And it is the Lotus because I recognize what Thich Nhat Hanh gave me, the essence of no mud, no lotus. The journey of life is fraught with mud and muck and poo. All of us humans get to dance in the mud and the muck. And all of that is serving for our growth, evolution. We're here to experience, to learn, to grow. That is the whole reason that we incarnate into these human forms, into this body, this temple. So my journey, and I really come from the standpoint that we choose our parents. We choose our parents, we choose our kids, we choose our partners, we choose all the peoples. Sacred contracts, that's a whole conversation. We could do a whole nother podcast on it. But the idea of we are here to be with the people and the experiences for us. Life is here happening for us. So I chose my parents, and they got divorced when I was 11. And I'm going to fast forward and say 25 years later, my dad shot and killed my mom. And that was 20 years ago. And that is so much a part of my journey because I am here to be someone who dances in the space of resilience. I recognize that life is here to knock us down, and it's about how do we get back up again and again and again. After my mom died, my dad died in jail, and I met my partner, who then was to become my spouse, and we had a daughter together, and she was on a melanoma journey. And so she left the planet when my daughter was 2. I am very aware of how life is here to provide the fodder for growth and to look in the mirror and to say thank you. I talk about the Lotus Path as an energetic experience. Like if you've seen that movie Inside Out, I love the Pixar movies so much. Like they're so fabulous. And all those little balls of memories, boop, they'd get dumped into the thing with Bing Bong and stuff. But anyway,
Yeah.
if you don't know the movie, you got to go watch it. But here the idea is that we have all these life boxes, experiences that are in these boxes. And generally what we do is just put the lid on it. But it's an empty box, friends, because there's no energy of what that experience was for you. When you are willing to go and open the box and look inside and our emotions are based in water, right? We are 75% water. The planet's 75% water. Water and air are our essence of existence. When we put some emotion and we look into that mud, that dirt, and we create this muddy thing, we come with gratitude, we come with compassion. Guess what? We create a brick, like those bricks behind you. We create a brick, not an empty box. And then
Right.
these are solid aspects to our foundation. So for me, I've had so many different boxes and bricks and opportunities and struggles. This 9 year has been like, woo, out the gate. Like, I'm like, what am I letting go of? How can I get sober financially, energetically, spiritually, like come into more love of myself?
Yeah.
We are all here in some ways, both at a deficit and at our ultimate potential. We are both. And that's really like the human and the soul. Like we are both. It is not an exchange. It is an experience of coming into oneness. And so these are all the things that have essentially been the fodder for me to show up in my life.
Yeah. And I want to kind of take it back to what you said about the experience, because I feel like when I'm talking to just anybody or, to clients or just, on the podcast, one thing that I can definitely resonate with a lot of the things that you have said is the experience. And when I'm asking people, like, what have I provided for you? Like, what have I helped with? And they've a lot of them are saying the experience. So I'm kind of like looking at it, I'm like taking my focus off of, maybe like I'm so focused on something, and you kept saying experience and like remembering, and it's so important that we have all of this stuff that happens to us, right? But then it's like you kind of take a step back and you're like, this experience, like the box, right? Like you said, is what I need to remember or
Mhm.
what I'm remembering, right? And
Mhm.
I think that is so powerful. And I feel like that's why I'm saying this, because if you take everything that happens in your life, good or bad, whatever it is, you're able to kind of stop focusing so much on what's not working and what is actually working for us, right? So I think that's very powerful, and especially from the experience standpoint, right?
Well, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about the idea of the princess and the pea, right? There's a pea and there's like what, 25 mattresses and she feels the pea, right? We've been indoctrinated into a world that says don't sweat the small stuff. Right? Because just let's worry about the big things, the little things that work themselves out. And some of that is true. The other thing is that when we are not willing to look at some of the irritations in our life and we brush them off because they're not really that big of a deal, they're going to show up, and they're going to show up in our bodies. They're going to show up in our energetic field. They're going to show up in our relationships. We are I love that you said remembering. Everything's about remembering.
Right,
We're remembering that we are one with God.
right.
That's really the essence. I was raised Jewish. Jesus was a Jew. That's all I knew. I didn't have any Christ consciousness at all. And this year I've come into like love with Yeshua and all of it. Like I got my first Bible like a couple weeks ago. Like I've totally shifted my perspective. And what he's talking about, the kingdom is within. Everything is within us. And whatever your belief system is, And I'm going to tell you something. The word belief has the word lie in it. Lie.
Yeah.
The word trust has the word us in it. The word faith is an acronym for face all in the heart. I made that up. But here's the deal. The whole point of this is that when we recognize that we are the guides, the leaders, the impetus for our existence, then we're responsible, then we're accountable. And guess what? We're also free because we're sovereign. We're sovereign beings and we're one with everything. And that whole energy of whatever the system that's in your life to inspire you, inspire in spirit, right? Like to be inspired is to be one with spirit. And we can't get away from being human. I mean, this is the thing. Like the human is such a show, right? I mean, it's a show. It's clearly entertainment for our soul.
Yeah.
And for all the guides that are around us, like they're constantly getting joy out of watching us just bumble along, right? I mean, so this is the thing. So no matter what your story is, know in your heart that you're here to experience life and to
Right.
remember that you are part of an energetic collective, part of a quantum field, and you're never alone.
As much as all of us feel alone sometimes, we're really not alone.
Never.
There's
Yeah.
always a spirit, something that could help. You could just, it's remembering to ask
Yeah.
for help. You
Yeah.
know, that's part of my story. It's like, you don't ever ask for help. And it's like, if it's my husband or, I'm looking at my daughter and I'm like, it's hard for her to ask for help. And it's like me telling her, honey, ask for help, ask mommy for help. Like, it reminds also me reflecting back to me that it's okay and it's safe to ask for help. You're allowed ask questions. You're also allowed to do
Well,
that too.
I was gonna say, get curious. I have an almost 15-year-old, and she knows like everything. So when we have these situations, and I was like, honey, you actually were wrong if you had just asked a question, right? But this is, that's part of being a teenager. That's part of being a kid is like, to know everything. The older we get, the more we know we don't know. That's like the gift of age.
Right.
The gift of age and wisdom. But yeah, what you're talking about, be curious. Honestly, we have lost our curiosity. The more that we are anchored into this system of living as a human, the less we're curious and playful. So that, it's interesting. You were talking about chakras on one of the podcasts I was listening to. And so that idea of color and chakras and what we wear, and you were talking about wearing black and how it helps you be rooted. And so it's interesting when we really feel into the senses beyond the five, right? We got our usual five. But when we feel into the senses that come through that channel, which is all of us have this channel, all of us are a channel. Like our human form holds a channel. When we really honor and get curious about what we're experiencing in life and bring it back to how we're showing up for ourselves, get back to how we're trusting in life, what we're experiencing, that's the recipe for greatness.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
witnessing. Witnessing is the recipe for greatness.
And that kind of goes along with like being the observer of your life and your
Uh-huh.
experience too.
Yeah.
That was a huge one for me, especially because I used to take everything so personal. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? But it's like is this about me or is this about them? Or it's like now being the observer, it's like, oh, I see that you're hurting. Oh, I see. Like I can see it from a different lens from, oh, this isn't about me, and it's like coming out of that sometimes too, like the humanness of that, I should say.
Yeah.
Like we all do it, and it's like really understanding that. And coming from that place, I think it's like perspectives, and it's like, that could be a whole other podcast conversation about perspectives. And it's like, you can
Yeah.
have this belief. And it was one of my podcast guests, I forget the actual episode, but he was describing perspective from like, if I'm looking at something, I'm looking at something from a six, maybe. If you draw a six in like a six on the floor, but the other person on the other side is looking at it from the nine perspective, and
Yep.
both perspectives are true.
Yep.
And I would love to hear your perspective about like truths, and because it seems like a huge thing right now.
Well, it's interesting. I literally just wrote an article on perception as powerful.
Oh, okay.
And it's interesting. My favorite art from high school was doing perspective, which is interesting. I love sacred geometry, like everything geometric. And so perspective, you have two lines, right? That are essentially like, think of train tracks, think of lines down a road. They never meet, friends. They never meet. But if you look at them, they look like they make a point. So let's play with that in the shape of a cone. Okay. So we're inside a cone and we look up and we see that there's a point at the top. If you were to look above that cone and you look down on it, you're going to see essentially a spiral, a center point that circles around it. So everything is perspective. And the Four Agreements, which I love so much, Don Miguel Ruiz and the Toltec Wisdom. If you don't know that book, go out and get it. It's very small. I've read it many times. I live by these Four Agreements. What's funny, we talked about this already. I chose my parents. I chose to incarnate. This is what some would say is truth, that we chose to be here. Therefore, we choose everything. Therefore, we're responsible for our life. Therefore, we've created it. Therefore, it is personal because I made it happen. The difference is everybody else is doing the same thing. So everybody's walking around making up their own stories and having their own lives. So is it personal? Yes. But do you need to take it personally? No. Do you see the difference? Everything's personal, but we don't need to take what anybody else is offering us personally. I've used this term before, and many of you might experience this as true. Hurt people hurt people. You hear that? Hurt people hurt people. We can only operate from where we're coming from. We cannot operate from any other frequency or vibration. We are a collection of essentially who we surround ourselves with is a representation of us. Who we are seeing and what we are seeing in the world is who we are being. Everything is rooted in who we are and how we show up. So talking about perspective, talking about truth, it all comes from within. I have another word I like to play with. What are you understanding? What are you standing under? Inner standing. It's inner standing. Recognize you're standing there with your truth. We all have a perspective. And this whole experience is designed as an ecosystem, as a matrix of individual offerings. That's what makes up this collective energy and web. And so really honoring the responsibility to be you. I know that's a tough one, right? You're like, I don't want to, let somebody else take responsibility. But this is what we're seeing in our world right now. You're either choosing to be responsible for your life or you're choosing to give up your sovereignty. That is your choice. I mean, if we are willing to say, I choose my life, I choose my stories, I choose how I respond, I choose how I engage, that it's you, it's your story, it's your life.
Yeah. And I think that that's very powerful for me too, through my experience when you said that, because a lot of my own story is feeling like I don't matter, or I, and it's like my just coming just through this whole, like you said earlier about a 9 year, like, man, oh God, this year has shown me so much through so much. And, it's like heavy energy. And like I said this to a friend the other week, I'm like, and it just got heavier.
Yeah.
And I feel like, coming into 2026, I think it's going to be a little bit lighter for the, people that did the work and that people are doing the work. I think it's going to be a little bit lighter, but going back to what you said about, choosing you, I truly believe, and I stand behind this 100%. Even for the podcast, it was like that moment that I was declared gone for 3 minutes. It was that moment that I was like, I matter. And,
Hmm.
if you heard my whole story, or if you know my whole story, listeners, um, that's huge. And that is what I want people to realize, that I don't want you to have to go through what I had to go through to understand that. Like, you don't have to be so hard on yourself. And all of us do it. I mean, to this day, I'm sure could probably choose the easy thing to do. And it's like, why do I keep going to that? So yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree that, through what we're going through right now, all of us collectively, we need to choose the easiest option.
Well, and it's funny about that because sometimes that's an interesting conversation. What is the easiest option? Sometimes the easiest option is checking out. It might feel that that's the easiest option to check
Right.
out. And so everything then becomes again back to perspective, right? We are a collection of habits, rituals, ways of being. We build it through childhood. It comes in through our ancestral lineage. It's part of our history. I call that one hi story. What story are you waving at, right? Like we all have a history. Like let's say hi to that story. The truth is that we are created by the experience that we're living. And we can easily get sidetracked. We can easily get back in alignment. They are
Right.
both easy. It's a matter of what are you feeling and how are you allowing yourself, honestly, to surrender.
Right.
This is the tough one. I mean, this is Mickey Singer all the way, untethered soul, the concept of letting go, allowing, accepting, not from the standpoint of I'm just going to accept what you have to give me, but accepting that that's what somebody else has to offer. See the difference? Right? That's going back to taking it personally. Someone else may not have what you are desiring from that experience, whether it be your partner, your kid, your colleague, your neighbor. So you get to remember that you have the power to make the choice that's serving for you. And sometimes that might be to turn and again, back to perspective. Let's look at it from a different way.
Yeah.
Like that's the power that we all have is to choose and choose again and choose again. Because guess what? We're here now. That's it. Right now, that's it. Like there's
Right.
nothing else, and then we're here now again. And the
Right.
more that we honor that nowness, we're really one with all of it. That's another one. When we're here now, we've won. WON. And then we're one with everything. ONE. And we own it all. OWN. Like this is really this is where life is a practice.
Right. Yeah. And especially when you had just said, like the now moment too, is like that's where I am like for me, and the way that I'm designed is like I have to stay in the now. If I'm not, I'm worrying about something, or like spiraling myself this way, or worrying about what I need to do later or whatever. It's like now.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the best traits that my daughter helps me with is mommy, mommy, mommy. Like if I'm doing something, or like I feel like I have to go do this thing, or I have to go, she's like, mommy, 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 look. And it's like I stop and I pause and I'm like, I'm going to stay in this moment because, throughout my whole life, and I think a lot of listeners can, and even you, I'm sure, can resonate with this, that we only have moments. Like you
Yep.
said about, that's actually one of my favorite movies. I love watching it with my daughter. About the memories of like,
Yep.
that's all you have. That's all we all have is those moments, those memories. And it's like, those are the things that, you know, I could catch myself complaining sometimes, or and it's like, what am I doing? I'm wasting my energy complaining about something because this is going to go by really fast and
Hmm.
it's going to be very silent. And then it's going to be like, what do I have besides those moments? So, yeah, that's really super powerful.
Well, that brings up the concept of non-attachment. I mean, we have quote unquote good memories, we have bad memories, we have good experiences, we have bad experiences. When we look at it, again, they're not they don't exist anymore either. They're in the past,
Right.
right? So that again, allowing ourselves to not be attached to anything, the good or the bad, right? To be neutral, to be willing to be present, like that's gift presents. I mean, hello. Like there's so much in our language, spelling. Yes, we are casting spells with our words, with our vibration. We are magically creating through our intention and what we are speaking. We are creating our lives. That is a fact. It's a matter of, do you like what you're creating? Does that feel good to you? Is there, so again, we're getting back to that place of this is a journey of self responsibility, self accountability, and self love. Okay, let's talk about that for a second because that's a big one, right? Where the love comes from. We can only give love in how we experience it within ourselves.
Yeah. Can you kind of speak a little bit more about that? Because I've heard recently from a couple of clients of troubles in relationships. Like we all have them, right? And specifically, one of my clients said to me, "Well, Lauren, it's like I give so much love. I have, and she's pure love. She really is. However, there is some trauma around different things and, some of her patterns and, whatever she chose this lifetime, pretty much." And the question that I had asked her, which she listens to the podcast, so I'll make sure I send her this episode. Go listen to this, go listen to this because it's going to have the same thing because sometimes I'm like, do they really believe what I'm saying? Am I like, are they really listening? Like, do they really? I'm like, you're just, like saying shit out your ass, Lauren. Like, I'm really, you know. So
We're all, guess what? Every single one of us has that little asshole, right? That little, like the way that we move our shit through, and every single one of us has it. So that means we all are here having our own experience and our own opinions. But yes, I love that you brought that through.
yeah. Yeah, because I'm like, sometimes, some days, I'm just like, are they really listening to me? Like, I don't even. I mean, do I listen to me sometimes? Usually, it's like they'll say something to me, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I just experienced that 2 weeks ago. Let me tell you what I did, and then you can just do whatever you feel like, And they're like, oh my God, you're just so, I'm like, well, I'm still here. I'm here. I'm human. I'm no different than anybody else on this entire
Yeah.
planet. Like, no different. I might just have a little bit more knowledge than you to help you, and then you can take it. But what she said to me was, in her relationship, she kept telling me, I keep attracting narcissistic people. And, no judgment from me. I'm just listening, I'm listening, I'm trying to, I'm just listening to see like what she's gonna actually say. And she goes, I feel like I attracted another narcissist. And I was like, I paused and then I said to her, what inside of you feels that way? Like, what inside
Mm.
of you is attracting that? And she just was like, immediately triggered, trigger like, I'm a narcissist. She didn't say that, but like, I mean, I could feel it. Can you kind of speak to that place of that self love and maybe why some of us do? It could be a client that you attract. I mean, very ego based. And I'm talking ego based. Like a narcissist is simply just an ego based person and they don't know what empathy is, you know? Not everybody, I feel like the word narcissist or narcissism in today's world has really blown up. I mean, coming from me, if I'm being completely raw and real and honest, before I left my first marriage, I didn't even know what a narcissist was. I had no idea. And then I came across that side of the internet and I'm like, oh my God. Oh, this is what my literally every situation, ship or relationship, marriage, whatever was. And I'm like, am I the problem here?
Well, guess what? Guess what, everybody? You're always the problem. The whole thing in your life is because of you. So let's just play with that for a second. And, I'm a Gen Xer. So narcissism was basically when somebody was bragging or boasting. I mean, that was like, we didn't talk about narcissists, 20 years ago. Why are we talking about it more? Well, I feel like on the one hand, we are recognizing the more expanded vibration of our presence and how we engage on an energetic level, because everything is energy. Everything is also love, energy, and light. We are a frequency, we are a vibration, and we are calling in the things that are here to help us grow, evolve, and learn. This is the hard part about life, is hearing that I created that, I chose that for my benefit. So what's underneath that is how we then shift within our own system to recognize where what we're seeking outside of ourselves, which is always going to be about reflection. We're walking disco balls, people. We are all mirrors and we're reflecting each other. The idea here is, what are we going to get stuck in? So this pattern we talk about of narcissism, I really sense that it comes from the essence of not feeling self-love. We have a condition in our humanity that's about taking care of other. And I would say that most people that get involved in narcissistic relationships desire to take care of something, take care of other people. So there's this like, exactly. So there's this energy. Yes, I know. And I mean, and again, this is part of the condition. Like, I had my kid at 42. So I was old old, whatever. I mean, I don't consider myself old, but in the realm of like when most people are having children. So there's this energy. I was a selfish mom, like, which my daughter's got her own stuff around that. But the point being is that a lot of moms have spent most of their life taking care of their kids and their families and their partners and their careers, right? And their homes. There isn't a lot of room left in there to take care of themselves, because we are not told that taking care of yourself or acknowledging yourself or celebrating yourself or talking wonderfully about yourself, because that would be narcissism, right? That would be bragging and boasting. So there's this very subtle shift in allowing yourself to be important, to be looking in the mirror and loving who you are. Whether it's the physicality, whether it's the emotionality, whether it's the spirituality, the energetics of your whole being is what you're walking around as. Like I said, I'm the love messenger. I love love. I've been in many relationships. I am always seen as a loving person. I mean, there's some people that don't like me so much, but I just find that interesting because, I think the spiciest of us out there, people love us or hate us, right? We kind of bring that energy. What I will say is, part of this journey this year was recognizing that I didn't love myself first,
Right.
even though I talked about it. And so I've had my own growth edge to really recognize, what does it mean to curate self-love? And what does that mean in the relationships in our lives? And so that means that you're essentially choosing you, honoring you, respecting you, trusting you. That's how we get to that place of loving you. It's a relationship that is to be cultivated. And so when you're cultivating that, and think about a plot of land, let's say. If you don't do anything with it, what's going to happen? It's going to grow weeds. It's naturally meant to grow. Like rain's going to happen, sun's going to happen, like it's going to grow weeds. And weeds are great too, don't get me wrong. I love dandelions. But the idea being that, they're very serving as well. Weeds are herbs.
Right.
But there's also that intentional garden. You plant the seeds. You have a relationship with it. You curate it. You go and you play with it. You massage the plants, right? And then you get to go like reap the benefit and harvest all of this beautiful stuff you've grown. So are you accidentally growing weeds and herbs, or are you intentionally growing a garden? Because this is a choice of life, right? So are you attracting the weeds of the narcissistic people?
Right.
Or are you planting seeds within you that's going to grow and attract a match that's energetically aligned, because you are energetically aligned with you? Take a breath.
Right. Right. And I feel and like that I just love this conversation because it's the reason why I am the way I am today. Like this moment. Like I always hear people say, God, Lauren, you're so self-aware. And it's like, I know so much about myself now that it's like I guess I always was subconsciously more self-aware than, other people. And then I'm like, but wait a second. No, I haven't been, because like I obviously, when I was in those relationships or I was in those like friendships, like there's a very one of my clients said this to me like a couple weeks ago. She's like, I lost all my friends. And I'm like, you didn't lose them. You grew from them. And then I also, the also thing, I know I talked about this on the podcast a couple weeks ago that just came out. When the self-awareness is like, when people ask me, well, what's the first step, like what do I do, I'm like, self-awareness, being aware. I'm like, these people that walk around that hurt people, and these narcissistic people, they're not even aware of what they're doing. And it's like coming from that perspective, and then through my own journey of like my first mentor telling me I need to be grateful for my ex-husband, and I'm like, I will never, no. So of course I sat with it, and same thing with forgiveness. It was huge, and acceptance. And then I'm like, so I really can be free from that resentment that I felt, that heaviness of the shame and guilt, and like, what did I do with my life? This is not, who told me to do this? Why does my life look like this? Yeah. So it's like even now it's like I can be okay to look at my daughter's biological father, and there's still, there's not much communication on his part, but in my part, I'm responsible for what I'm responsible for. And people on the outside looking in are like, how can you be so grounded? And it's like, why not?
Mm.
There's no emotional charge there. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's called healing. You have to heal that side of it. So yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes back to love of, I feel like society talks about self-love at like getting your hair done, getting your nails done, doing this and doing that. And I'm like, that's not self-love. That's maintenance.
Well, that's self-care. And it's
Yeah.
interesting. So self-care, self-love, self-worth. They're all similar, but they're different. They're different aspects of the relationship with self. And I love that you brought up forgiveness. When my dad shot my mom and killed her, I had a friend who said, will you ever be able to forgive him? And I sat with it, and I felt like I didn't know how to answer the question, because I didn't feel like I needed to forgive him, but I didn't really get why. And then a couple days later, I was at a friend's house. There's a word, bibliomancy. Do you know that word? Where you open a book or a magazine or you see it on a billboard. Basically, the idea is you ask a question and then the answer comes in the book. And so basically, I opened this book
Okay.
in just giant font on 2 pages of this huge book. It says, "Forgiveness is not an act, it's an attitude." So I'm going
Oh,
to offer that to you and all of your listeners. Forgiveness is not an act, it's an attitude. And so allowing yourself to forgive another, again, hurt people hurt people. Again, you chose this experience in your life. Again, everything is serving for you and your growth. When you really anchor into that truth and you take a breath and you have the gratitude for the experience, then you get to choose forgiveness, because not forgiving really doesn't do anything to the person.
right.
It only creates, again, that pea under the mattresses with the princess situation. It creates a little pea in your world. And this is what is the seed of dis-ease, of the toxicity of holding on to, well, they hurt me, I'm going to hurt them, right? That becomes then your choice. And so these are high vibrational ways of walking as a human,
Right.
being
Yeah.
willing to say thank you and bye-bye, right? But you got to say thank you. You can't just say bye-bye, because it's never going to go away. It's going to like haunt you. Guess what? I mean, most people marry or date the same person, different name, different skin situation, but same person until the energetics, which is what, who's the common denominator? You are,
Right.
right? Until the energetics within you shift, then you're going to be vibrating on a different level, in a different frequency. It's like the whole radio dial. I'm sure many of you have talked about this, right? You know, you're listening to the music, all the other music exists. FM, AM, I know I'm like dating myself here, XM, whatever, right? But the whole point is, I mean, let's go to YouTube. There's a bazillion, trillion, oh my God, there's so many things we can tune into. But we're tuning into this right now because we're attracted to this, because this is connected to where we're at. Trusting in what we're attracting and how it's serving for us, that's a gift that you get to give yourself. And that's where you get to grow through.
Yeah. Speaking about frequency, it's kind of like how, I didn't realize how I grew my business to be my business kind of thing. It's like somebody was like, "Oh yeah, you do frequency marketing." I'm like, "What the hell's that? What is that? What are you talking about?" And then like when I'm hearing you talk about the frequency and the way that if I'm promoting the podcast or I have guests on the podcast and or whatever I'm doing, like if I'm whatever I'm doing in my business or in general, it's always ever been about frequency. When it's been about, let's just talk about relationships, and we were just talking about relationships. I was in such a low vibration because of trauma, and I know a guest talked about this too, and I can't give credit to who said this, but she actually knows Sandra, one of the podcasts that we were talking about trauma and the Trauma Reiki podcast. And she said that, trauma holds a certain vibration. And if that stays in your body, that's actually what, what you attract. And it's like at that moment, even listening to her talk, I'm like, oh, that's why I did that. And that's why I went that way. And that's why I decided to stop trying to date people after I needed to just be with myself. Because again, let's just be honest, I didn't want to be and look at myself. I would be that girl walking down the hallway of like, don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me. I'm just going to keep walking because I'm just going to keep imagining it's not happening until like the universe was like, sit your ass down and do it. You need to do it, So yeah. So can you kind of speak about from a frequency standpoint of, let's just say if it's a partner or maybe it's a client. I have a lot of people that in my world are telling me, oh, I'm not attracting the right audience, or I'm not attracting the right clients. People don't want to pay me. Or again, if it's a relationship thing, I'm attracting all these narcissistic people. Like, what is like a really quick way that people could come to the realization that they are in control of this frequency?
Yeah, this is a powerful conversation. Essentially, what I've distilled and learned through my own journey of recognizing that everything is energy. And I've worked as an intuitive body worker. I'm a Reiki practitioner, I'm a shamanic practitioner. So I've taken coursework and done the practices to play in this realm.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm going to offer is that it's a feeling, and there's an energetic for you to think about. Do you lean in or do you pull back? That's the simplest way to begin to talk about it. Energetically, when you're interested in something, are you leaning in or are you pulling back? So, right there, that is frequency. There is an attraction or something repelling you, or maybe you're curious, you don't really understand what's happening right there, so that doesn't feel like, and yet, or versus feeling aligned with something. And so whether it's business or it's personal or it's with the earth, meaning like with what's all that surrounds us, we are always walking around as energy. So it's the opportunity to listen. Now, I think this is a big part of our world right now. We're not listening. We're really not listening. We're listening to so many things. We're really not listening. We are masking our ability to listen. And so I would say that part of that is a practice of stillness. And I know people are like, I don't have time to be still, right? Well, here's the deal. You don't have time to not be. I mean, this is where we're shifting. This is what is happening in our evolution. This is where we're moving towards, is less is more. Not more is more or more is better. Less is more. And so when we allow ourselves to slow down, to pay attention to our breath. I mean, our breath is our life force. And when you think about the amount of people that have lung and heart conditions, asthma, there are so many conditions that are related around the heart chakra that pinpoint how we are not in relationship with our own self-love, our own compassion. So again, back to this energetic frequency experience, everything is energy, and your willingness to listen with your inner senses. This is where the 7 chakras are so powerful in how we are designed beyond the outside. So the 5 senses are outside. They're like the outer layer of our beingness. I mean, yeah, okay, we take food in, but seriously, it's that first step, right? Of having this thing meet our being. When we go underneath, when we go within, when we listen, all the information is there. And so, I took I was reading a book, an energetic marketing and selling. I mean, I've been in business for myself for 21 years. It goes up and down. There's points where I'm like, have a lot of clients and I've got full workshops, and then I'm like, I'm out working again. I mean, if you're a solopreneur, it never ends, right? I mean, this is the idea.
Yeah.
Life never ends, everybody. I guarantee everybody's going to die. That's the only guarantee I have for you.
Right.
That's the whole point, is we're continuously creating, right? Again, we're creating. So your intention is going to lead to the outcome. And that idea of when we are coming from a place of feeling scarcity, feeling lack, and I'm not even talking about money at this point. I mean, we're talking about love, we're talking about time. I mean, all these things are energetically entwined. when we feel that way, we are literally projecting that experience. So when I think back to this whole narcissism, attraction thing, it's again, there's a draw for somebody to come in. Let's think about when a narcissist starts a relationship with somebody, they're adoring you. Like that's how you feel. Like you feel adored, right? Because you're literally
Yeah.
asking, you don't feel that for yourself. So then you're soaking it up because somebody else is, in whatever form that is. And then there's the shift that happens, and then, but you're all entwined in it. So again, remembering that you are the greatest gift to yourself, and that vibration will attract others that feel that way about themselves. So this is again, I mean, this is the tough one. I never want anybody to look at their life and go, oh man, I'm really like, messing this life up. This isn't the point. The point is to be awake now,
Yeah.
to open and say, oh wow, I get to choose how I'm going to move from this moment. Yes, we have a history. We can say, hi, story. Yes, we have a foundation. We can work with that. The choice is, how would you like to envision what's coming? How would you like to take the next step that feels aligned? That's what this is about. That's where this frequency conversation leads us to.
Yeah.
Always back to you.
Right. Always back. That's literally what I ask myself too. Like when I'm going through something difficult or something that feels, challenging, um, I always think to myself, like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like what part of this is my responsibility? Because it's so easy for me to, I just love that whole self-reflection um piece of it. It's probably why I also went down the shamanic journey to be a shamanic practitioner, because it's like, I mean, some of it was past life stuff that I needed to clear out in like karma, I think, for that part, of like me abusing power to be like this
Mhm.
lifetime, like understanding that it was very clear. Spirit made that very clear in a very vision of like, ah, shit, I have to, like I have to go down this path to understand. And it's like what I always talk about too. It's like the root cause to everything. It's like curiosity of like all of us are shamans, and at some point, because we innately just want to get to the point of like, what is this? Why is this happening? Regardless of whatever
Mhm.
it is, wherever you are in your journey. And I
Yep.
think that full circle moments. I feel like I've had a lot of full circle moments in 2025. It's been like, oh, okay. Like I see you. I'm witnessing this. I'm like, oh, okay. Let's just keep on going forward because we're not going to go the other way. But yeah, it definitely brings me back to that frequency, like you said, or how everything is connected. And I often think to myself that everybody thinks the way that I think. And then when they don't, I am like, I just assume that you do think that way. And it's always, I'm sure you're the same way. It's like, you don't think that way? Like, no, you're not putting that together. Or it's like, that's just a coincidence. I'm like, there's no such thing.
Yep.
There's
There's no,
no such
if you're
thing.
in my field, I say you wipe that out of your vocabulary unless you put a dash. So co dash incident. But that is saying that you're aware that
Yeah.
those things happened in connection and that you see them. Like that's what synchronicities are, is recognizing all of the signs. They're happening all the time. It's
Right.
always a matter of, are we slowing down? Are we witnessing? Are we perceiving? And are we really seeing? And are we really listening, which is different from looking and hearing, right?
Yeah.
So looking and seeing are different from each other. So this is that idea. Again, everything is about coming back to, are you living a life from an empowered place? Do you feel that you are in charge of your life? Or do you feel as a victor? Or do you feel that you are responding and reacting as a victim. I call life the valley of vulnerability, right? Do we stand up on the tippy toes of the mountains and like fight and yell with each other? Or do we allow ourselves to come into the valley and really be in this relationship? We all carry victim and victor energy. We all are heroes. We all are walking the Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And
Right.
guess what? We play all the roles
Right.
within our own system. So yeah, we're all here playing roles. That's what this life is about.
Right. All different roles.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
We could talk. I could talk about this forever, but before we close, I want one of the things that had came through was when I was listening to you is, or for the listeners, I should say, is hearing the phrase that it's not the experience itself, but how we respond. What is like the first step that you can leave with the listeners if they want to move towards like responding instead of reaction? What would be the first step that you would guide them to understand?
Essentially, it's a little bit what we talked about already about life here now. And so where experiences have both positive and negative, when we choose to be in neutrality, okay, so that's where we're going to start. We're going to say we're having an event or an experience. Well, likely you're not in the middle of that anymore. You are on the other side of it and you're witnessing it and you're saying, oh, that thing, it hurt me or it affected me. The shift is saying, how did that serve me? So I have 3 questions. I don't like the word why, W-H-Y. I like the letter Y because it represents you. It's an I with a V on top, right? It's a victor, victim, and I. I choose, am I victor or am I victim? Ask yourself these 3 questions. How is this serving me? What am I learning? And where are my edges? So that question needs a little explanation. Where are my edges is in reference to where are my boundaries? Where are my energetic boundaries? Do I have any right now? Are they spiky? Are they porous? Are they thick? Or do they not exist? So everything is going to spin around this inquiry, back to curiosity, which is this experience happened. Are you willing to recognize that it is for you? When you decide to say, yes, okay, that's for me, then you get curious and then you look at it from, again, the sort of spiral down perspective versus the up in the tent perspective, right? So then rather than being trapped by how this has come to a point, because your perspective now comes to a point, you're choosing to look at the whole experience and say, I'm choosing to respond to this experience or this event and decide that I'm going to say the outcome is that I learned something. That is a key piece in this journey. Again, back to freedom and sovereignty and choice. So if you're playing here and you're watching this podcast, you recognize that these are the things that you're messing with in your life. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be in this vicinity, right? Enlightened
Right.
misfits. I mean,
Right.
hello. So, I mean, it's like I have an enlightenment partnership pathway program. I mean, this is what we're all recognizing is that our desire to know ourselves more comes from being curious and willing to see that it's all happening for me and to really honor that and have compassion for yourself and have compassion for the other players in your field. Remember, hurt people hurt people. When we offer them compassion and we say thank you for helping me live my ultimate design and purpose as a soul, Yay. Like that's a sacred contract thing. Like come down and be a jerk to me when I'm 45 years old. Okay. I don't want to do that. Yes, please do it. Okay. Right. Okay. Sure. Let's shake on it. Right. I mean, so this is that thing. We do create this journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. And thank you for all of your wisdom. This was such a powerful conversation. And please tell us where we can find you. I'll make sure that all of your links are below in the description box. And if you're watching this, it'll be in the description box. If you are listening to this, just check below wherever you're listening to this. Her links will be down there.
Yeah. Well, the lotuspath.love. Yes, .love. The lotuspath.love is where you'll find everything that I offer. You can work with me one-on-one. You can work with me locally. I'm here in on Idaho Earth, and virtually I do things all over the planet, as well as all of the social media things and the love messenger. You can find me offering things and sharing things and telling stories and having a good time. This is my greatest joy. I offer a monthly portal energy perspective guidance, and I love being in the space of curiosity and holding space. These are my greatest joys.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. And if you are a spiritual entrepreneur rising into purpose, I'm going to invite you into my Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood. It's a community where women are building lives and businesses that honor their energy, their calling, and their truth. You can also check those links out below if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're listening to this, or just come find me on all the social media platforms, The Mermaid Light. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next week.
If today's episode spoke to you and you're ready to rise with support, I'd love to invite you in to the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood, a sacred community for spiritual entrepreneurs to heal, grow, and lead with purpose. You can join us by using the link below in the show notes or connecting with me over on Facebook or Instagram at The Mermaid Light. If you loved today's episode, subscribe, share, and leave a review. This helps support us reach more women who are ready to rise. Remember, your journey isn't about fitting in. It's about embracing the truth of who you are. Until next time, stay inspired, stay aligned, and keep creating your extraordinary path. This is Lauren, and you've been listening to the Enlightened Misfits podcast.